Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Wealth Habits Podcast. I am so excited to be here with my two friends. Now, this is going to be a little bit different episode. I am going to serve as the host, and I'm putting my co-host and his wife on the hot seat.
Hot seat.
Here
we go.
Yes.
Here we go.
And I've got questions. So you guys know that our tag is that if all you have is money, you are not winning. And one of the things that we stress is that you have to win in multiple areas of your life. And one of those areas is in your family life and in your relationship. So the beautiful thing is that I have known Cory and Delilah for not quite 20 years. I think I met you guys like 2002, 2003. Right. Yeah. And in that time, I've really gotten a front row seat to your relationship. And, you know, I feel like I am uniquely qualified to speak to the truth of what probably other people see on the outside. And I've watched you guys work together. I've watched you guys play together. Like, I've been around. I've watched you guys go through some stuff together. Yes, like, absolutely. So yes, I just want to kind of talk about that relationship, and then we also have some questions that have come in from other friends that we're also going to bring into the conversation.
Cool. Well,
so y'all ready for this?
Absolutely.
Y'all nervous?
Be nice, Sherry. Okay.
All right. I have to say this part because I really do consider you guys #relationship goals.
Appreciate that.
Just because of the genuine nature of the relationship. The love is so palpable, you can feel it. And you know, again, sometimes you look at outside pictures of people and you think, well, it ain't really that good. But I can tell you guys, I've been up close on them, and it's as good as it looks.
Appreciate
so
that.
Thank you.
Let's just start at the beginning.
Sure.
How did y'all meet?
You're going to share this, babe?
No, this is going to be your share. See, well, let me just preface up front, okay? I am now an involved person, all right, from when we first met. I want to throw that out there ahead of time. So when you hear this story, please understand this is not the Cory of today.
Cory
okay? No one's sitting outside the house throwing eggs or anything like that. I mean, yeah. All right. So go ahead, babe. Tell the story.
So in the summer of '95, I came to LA, and I was living with my best friend at the time. I was working at a day camp, and one of the students, his mom was Cory's assistant, and she had asked me if I was interested in taking some model shots. And I was completely floored, right? Because I come from a small town, Orosi, California, Los Angeles. This was my first time coming to Los Angeles. And I was flattered that she asked me, and I said, I don't understand. She said, well, I work for a photographer, and he's looking for new faces, people of color in particular. So I thought that you would be, you know, someone that he would consider. So I went back to my best friend, and I asked her opinion whether or not I should do it. Because, you know, LA's a big city. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know what type of photographs he wanted to take. So I decided to give him a call because she had given me his number.
Like, first of all, her whole mind went to a different level, right? What kind of photographs I was going to take? Right? Really? Come on.
So,
anyway.
I'm going to get hooked up.
Right. She's going to be on the website.
Right. So I gave him a call, and I said, hey, this is Delilah. Tiffany gave me your number. And I was wondering if I could just ask a few questions about this photo shoot. And he said, sure. And I said, well, I was just wondering, you know, do you have a portfolio that I could perhaps take a look at so that I could know what type of photographs? And then he stopped me before I could even finish my sentence. Oh my gosh. And he says, look, women in LA come a dime a dozen. Either you're interested or you're not. So when you decide, go ahead and give me a call back. Click.
I've evolved, guys. Wait a minute. I want everybody to know I've evolved since then.
Let me say this, because I've heard this story before, but I've forgotten the details. Right? But as you were stating the question, I heard Cory's answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the sensitive one that I am, I was a bit hurt, and I didn't know if I would go ahead and move forward. So again, I talked to my best friend, and she said, well, it's completely up to you. So then I spoke to Tiffany soon after that, and she said, look, Delilah, there's going to be only 2 other girls. All he's asking is that you have a nice long gown. We're going to take photos on the beach in the gowns, and then bring some jeans, a nice blouse, and
I didn't say lingerie or,
right.
you know.
Yeah, bring a cap. We're going to go to the railroad tracks. And she said, and I will be there. There's nothing for you to worry about. So I opted to go ahead and do the photo shoot. And so the day of, we got to the apartment, and when I saw him, he smiled. He had braces at
I
the
wish
time.
y'all could see this reaction. Go ahead.
So he had braces, right? But his smile, I mean, to this day, it warms my heart. It fills my heart. And I was just stunned initially by his smile. What I noticed, though, was when we were about to enter the apartment, there were doors, right? And he opened the door for all, the females. And I noticed that right away. And then he went over to the table. He had his portfolio. He opened it up, and he looked at me and he says, "Hey, Delilah, I know you had asked me about my portfolio. Here are some of the shots that I've taken." And he was not at all the person that I spoke to on the phone. He was a completely.
She come in a bad day. That's all that was. There was things going on, I'm sure.
It wasn't even that, Cory. I heard in the spirit.
And so, yeah, again, he just was not the person that I had spoken to on the phone. We had a wonderful shoot, right? We had a lot of fun. And this was soon before I was going back to college. So he says to me, "Hey, Delilah, you can come pick up your photos on this day. Why don't you come by my studio?" So I'm thinking, photography studio, right? He's a photographer. I'm going to go to his studio. Well, when I was in college, I believe it was my junior year, I had wanted to make the effort of taking some sort of martial arts. And for whatever reason, it was Taekwondo in particular. Well, anyway, I drive up to the curbside thinking I'm going into this photography studio, and I look up, and it says Taekwondo West. And I look at the address, and I'm thinking, am I at the wrong place? Well, I got out of the car, I walk into the studio, and guess who's on the mat? Cory was on the mat with these 3- and 4-year-olds. It was called the Little Dragon class. And being that I was in school to study to become a teacher, I was just like, oh my God, kill me now. Right? He was just full of surprises. So anyway, he runs off the mat. He shares with me that he's the master of this studio. And I was just floored. So anyway, I ended up going back to school, and we had exchanged numbers, and he said, "Hey, if you're ever in LA, why don't you give me a ring?" And that literally was it. I was taken away by him, and in my mind I thought, you know what? Just in the short amount of time that I was around him, there were things about him that I wanted in whoever I was going to eventually be with. And so when I was away at school, I don't know, maybe a few months later, he had told me that he was going to be in San Jose area. I was attending college in San Rafael, and so he said, "Hey, I'm gonna be in San Jose. Why don't you come to our tournament?" And I said, "Of course, I'll come hang out."
And this was purely platonic at this time. We were just
Really,
talking. No,
really,
really,
Cory,
no, really, we weren't.
You weren't being a dude. You weren't like.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't. I knew she was really interested in martial arts, and I figured we were in the area, and I had all our students there. Cool, come out and watch the show. And that's really what it was about for us at the time.
Well, unfortunately, they didn't end up going,
right?
And so we missed that opportunity to see each other. Well, lo and behold, when I was graduating to get my credential, my sister was graduating from high school at the time. And her goal was to move to Los Angeles. And so she said to me, "Hey, why don't we both move to Los Angeles? You would now have your credential. you can find a teaching gig there. And I said, that sounds like fun. That sounds like a plan. And so we ended up doing that. And I had told Cory prior to that, my sister and I were moving, and I didn't really, know anybody at the time because my best friend she had left. And so he decided to help me, find a spot. And honestly,
I was looking for a place at that time too. So
yeah. And
go ahead. And so, I don't believe Cory, but go ahead.
right.
yeah, everything I'm saying, I'm just like getting the short change.
Right.
Hey, is there any truth to what I'm saying? Hey, Sherry. Man.
But before I was moving
This is
to
my
LA,
co-host over here, right?
before we were gonna move to LA, we had talked on the phone. We were just friends. Well, when he said, "Why don't you come to LA? I found you a place to live," I said, "Cool." I came. We went to the apartment complex. It was a 2-bedroom for my sister and me, and we were so ready to move in. And he said, "Oh, and by the way, I live next door."
Exactly. All right, fellas that are listening to this, tell me in the comments if you believe that Cory is just platonic.
We were just friends, okay? It just made logical sense. I was right there. Now she knows somebody. I was looking for a place.
So, our friendship grew. And again, there were so many qualities about him that I had really, really appreciated. Well, prior to me going away to college, my father had said to me, and this is, it's pretty.
Don't give it context. Just do it to say it because
Okay.
it'll work itself out.
Okay. So before I went away to college, my dad said to me, "Do not bring a man home unless he's the man that you're going to marry. And make sure he's not black."
Bam.
Ouch!
Yeah,
Yes.
right?
Yes, and that's a whole different topic.
Yes.
But that always stuck with me when I went away to college, and I didn't bring anyone home.
So much, in fact, her family thought that she might have been gay at the time, and that's why she wasn't bringing anyone home.
Right.
Right.
So, Lila's just herself, kind of thing.
Right, so they're just wondering,
That is wonderful.
So
That is really rich.
Right? It's okay.
Right.
We love you anyway.
Right.
So I decided to share, now that Cory and I were in a relationship, to share with my parents that I was seeing somebody. Now, mind you, I did not have a conversation with Cory that
Unbeknownst to me.
that I was going to go tell my parents about him.
Now, just let me put some context to this part, because I think, first of all, we haven't had any conversation like where this is going, right? This is just fun for us. We're enjoying our friendship, that kind of thing. So we're not even talking about marriage, engagement, any of that stuff. So she's about to go and make this life-altering event conversation. Wow, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So me knowing how this conversation was going to go with my dad, I brought a black and white model photo of Cory with me, an 8x10. So I go home, right, and it wasn't a good time because there were family, issues going on at the time. So we're sitting at the dinner table. My dad is sitting directly across from me. I'm at the other end of the table. My mom's next to my dad. My two brothers.
I can feel the tension.
Right.
But go ahead.
My brothers and my sister. And I had prompted them that there was something I wanted to share with them. And so, of course, you can see this, right? So we're sitting at the table, and I said, "Mom, Dad, there's something that I want to share with you." And initially, I think they thought I was pregnant.
Good.
So,
Well, she's not gay.
Right.
Okay.
So
Right.
I said, "I've met somebody, and I believe that this is the man that I want to spend the rest of my life with. He has not asked me to marry him, but I know in my heart that we're going to be together." And my dad says, "What is he?"
Not, happy for you. I love that you're.
What is
right,
he?
what is he?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was prepared. I had that photo of Cory. I took it. I slid it down the table. He looked at it, and he slid it back down. He got up, and he says to my mom, I need you to get her birth certificate, her life insurance, and anything else that she needs, because
This is it.
This is it.
Game over.
And he walked out.
Oh my God, Delilah. Oh my God.
Right.
So my mom starts crying. I start crying. Like, it just.
And I don't know any of this is going on.
He didn't realize
at
this is
all,
what was
right.
was
I just thought
happening.
she was going home to see her parents, and it was going to be just an interesting weekend and stuff, right?
It was interesting.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So,
Oh my God.
So I ended up going to see my maternal grandparents first to say goodbye. And being that I didn't speak our language, I did my best to communicate to them that I wasn't coming back because my dad and mom were upset that my boyfriend is black. And so there were tears, and hugs. And then I drove over to my paternal grandparents' house. And my grandmother, she was in complete shock. She could not believe how my dad handled it.
And this is her dad's mother.
And the first thing she says is, you have the picture? And I showed it to my grandmother, and she just had the biggest smile, and she said, he's so handsome. And then she got mad and said, if your dad cut his wrist right now and I cut mine, we would all bleed red. She said, I don't know where he learned that from, but that wasn't right. And so we hugged and cried, and I left.
And
This is like Harry and Meghan.
I know, right. So
we were talking about the royal family earlier, but
Right.
Woo.
Yeah.
but and so we'll go ahead and finish that last part, and I'll kind of chime in on that.
And so I ended up calling Cory to let him know, what had happened, and he responded
Come
with,
home, baby.
yeah, he just said, come home. So I ended up going back, and I want to say a few days later, my dad called, and Cory had answered the phone.
I was like, who's this?
So,
hold on one second. Let me see if she's around.
So he said to me, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said, what I said, and is it okay if we meet him?
And at this point, she really thought.
No, wait, where are you
Well,
as far as like this is my wife or the woman I?
So this point, so when she came home,
Because that's some foresight,
Right,
Delilah.
right.
That's some serious
Well, when she came home, right, it was more like just let her vent, more than anything else, right? And she kept saying that he's prejudiced, he's this. And I said that he's not prejudiced. He just doesn't know. Like in his mind, in the world, in the area that he grew up in, he just saw the negativity of what black people were, right? And I think for him, he just automatically had this stereotypical conversation in his head that he thought it was going to be this way. And I just kept saying, I don't believe that he's prejudiced. Just something in my heart, just how could he raise someone like her? And this is someone, that I love and adore. And at this point in time, we're still dating, but she's such a great intellectual person and just a sweet person. Like you can't be prejudiced and spawn something like that to me, And so I think at the end of the day, when he finally called, and he told her, I want to meet him, let's come home, I think that was like validation that he wasn't prejudiced. Because if you're prejudiced, you ain't trying to meet the cat.
Right.
You're just done.
Right.
That's it,
Right.
So I said, of course, and he said, okay, we'll set a date. You both come and we'll get to meet him. And, in the Filipino community, family is extended family.
So let me talk about this part. So mind you now, I grew up in between Los Angeles and in New York, and it's always been city, right? And I'm used to the city, And at the time, I think I was driving like a 5 Series BMW, but it was like my pride and joy, right? I don't want to get it dirty, kind of thing. And I remember we were driving on this long dirt road, right? And it's like cars lined up everywhere, and I'm going, man, someone's having a hella party, right? I'm like, dude, this is going to be a heck of a party, whoever this is, right? And I'm thinking we're going to pass their house, right? And we drive up, and it's like at the end of this dirt road, and it's Delilah's house, right? And when you drive up, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, first of all, this was just a little get together. You know what I mean? So then she starts to tell me, well, Filipinos, it's family is everybody. It's the cousins, uncles, aunts, sisters, aunts from 2009, back then, whatever it is. It's just way back.
Play mamas,
it's,
play
yeah,
daddies.
plays everybody, right?
Right.
And everyone's there. Well, we drive up to the driveway, and I look out, and it's all the men sitting out in the driveway in chairs. And I'm talking about, I'm a pretty confident person. And I was like, oh, what's about to go down? I was like, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, they about to ambush me. Right. So,
and there's cornfields that we had passed, and he was
and I'm like, babe, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going in the cornfield. I'm like, dude, if your dad said come take a walk with me, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Okay, I've seen children in the corn. Okay, I'm not going there. Right?
Yeah. Children in the corn.
Right, I'm not doing this. And she's like, babe, it's gonna be all right. So we drive up. I get out of the car, I walk around the car, I open the door for Delilah, right? And I open the door so she can get out, and then at that point in time.
Well, what was interesting.
But first of all, just the row of men,
right,
like that,
yeah.
That's a scene from a movie.
Totally.
Like,
yes.
Yeah.
They're all drinking, smoking, playing cards, and
they're ready.
They're ready.
Yes.
Oh, like, and then when we had pulled up, all my aunts, all the women come out. When he opened the door for me, they were like, what just happened? Is he opening the door for her? So that was a complete surprise. Well, I decided we're going to go into the house first and mingle with the females.
Trying to ease me in first,
yes.
Okay?
Right.
So Cory had gotten my plate, right? Because this was all new to him, and he wanted to serve me. And again, the women were like, what is happening? Why is he getting her plate?
Because her culture is just the opposite.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we sat down, and they asked him questions, and they were very impressed by the fact that he had a BMW, because that's in their mind status, right? And the fact that he had his insurance license, that was great, and that he was an entrepreneur. So they really appreciated that about him. And so, we were there for a little bit, and then he decided, I think it's time that I go.
Let me go talk to these guys.
Yeah, let me go talk to the men.
Let's go deal with it.
Let's get it over with. All right? It's going to go one or two ways, right?
So
if I got to get jumped, let's just go.
Let's get it on.
So he goes out there, and of course, my dad asks him, what would you like to drink? And they're offering him alcohol, right?
Like real alcohol, though.
Right.
Like there's something to make your
like
chest
Crown
hurt,
Royal,
right?
Yeah. And Cory says, oh, no thank you, I don't drink. And all the men were like,
you are black, right?
Right.
That's not even thinking in the head,
Right.
So.
and they're like, oh, okay. And so then they said, cigarette? He's like, I don't smoke. And so all these things,
stereotypical
right,
thoughts,
they're thinking, oh, wow, this is a surprise. So then my dad, because he doesn't want an alcoholic drink, my dad's looking at me like, get him something to drink, because, that's what we serve. So I was like, okay, I'll be right back. I'll go get you, a 7-Up or a Sprite. So he got to sit down with them, and, they had their small talk. And
your uncle.
Yeah. So my uncle started to ask him just about, things in his life and what he enjoys doing. And he mentioned that he was in the Navy. And in our culture, being in the military is respectful. And so when they found out that he was in the Navy, they were excited, like, okay.
So the guards started coming down a little bit, right? We're having good conversation at this point.
And then he said, oh, I've been to the Philippines. So then everybody's
Now
a little bit more
better,
relaxed.
right?
He's talking about the places that he visited in the Philippines, and so they're just starting to let their guards down. And then he mentioned that he was a martial artist. And Filipinos love martial arts, right? In particular, Cory
Eskrima, yeah.
knows the Filipino martial art of the fighting sticks, Eskrima, the collie sticks. He had them in the trunk of his car. Yeah.
You planned that.
Right?
Who knew? I had to carry my collie sticks with me, you know. I'm like, all right.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
pretty good.
So he went and got them out of the trunk, and he showed them, what
Yes.
he knew, and he won them over. Like it was.
It was cool. It was
I
very,
love
very
it.
cool.
I
Yeah.
love it.
So he won
Yeah.
on his own merit.
That-
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what was really good about that? It was like it's like that cultural divide, right?
Yeah.
When you find that commonality, when you find that thing that connects people, everything is open and it's possible.
So
you know?
here's a question I have, because this came from a question I shared
Yeah.
with you about just blending cultures. Did you, like, getting past family, but
Yeah.
I'm saying in your own household,
Yeah.
not dealing with family, but dealing with just the two of you, did you have any kind of cultural divide that you had to, like, leap over, like things that, coming from a African American culture or coming from a Filipino culture that...
I think, honestly, I think a couple of things. I think as raising kids, because we have kids, right? We try to give them the best of both sides. We want them to understand that they're black, but they're also Filipino, right? And they both have their own different cultures, and there's different things that are great about both, right? And I think we've done a pretty good job of, infringing that upon them so they get the concepts, I think each one of our kids kind of gravitate to different sides, I think, more so than the other, and which is always interesting to watch them because I'm always laughing, though, like who they're becoming, right? And just kind of laughing about their whole process, I guess, right?
There was a point when Kahea, we had asked her, "Are you black or Filipino?" And she said, "I'm a girl." Right.
Yeah. There's a difference, yeah.
Right.
I believe that we have done a pretty good.
She definitely identifies her black side.
We've done a pretty good job of sharing both cultures. We make it a point to go visit my family.
Yeah.
Every few months,
Yeah.
and so they get to really see how we handle birthday parties and the types of food that
Let me tell you guys this, man.
we-
The culture, their culture, they give money. Okay, I was like, shut up. We get all this money from these people, just for having a reception. So that was right on my alley. I was like, yo, we go to the Filipino every time, right? And our culture be like, oh man, I ain't got no money. You on your own, okay?
Right. Very, very little presents.
Right.
It was mostly
It's
cash.
dollars, cash in envelopes. So I was like, nice. It's a whole different thing.
So here's a question that came up from one of the people who sent us questions. Before you got married, you had a definition about marriage. What was that? Do you remember? Can you go back? And just for the record, so we say it, you guys have been together 22 years married,
Yes.
and 23 years total.
Together.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it's funny because I don't think that you can ever have a true definition of what marriage is. I think it's something that evolves for each individual, and unfortunately, I hear the comment all the time is, I didn't have anyone to model after, and that's why we didn't have a great marriage. I didn't either, personally, my mom did a great job, but there wasn't like a man and husband in the household all our lives raising us. So I never knew what that looked like to have a dad around. But I felt like at the end of the day, when you find the right person, you put the work in, and I think that really is what makes it happen for us, from that standpoint.
I didn't really have a definition of what marriage should look like. Seeing my parents, I knew for sure that whoever I married, we would dance a lot together because that's what I saw my parents do. And it brought them so much joy. That was their happy place. And so I knew that I wanted a husband who would enjoy doing that with me. And then also having a sense of humor, because I remember growing up watching my mom and dad, they would share stories and they would just laugh all the time. And I wanted that. I definitely wanted that.
How has your definition of marriage changed? Like from when you were that, 20, you're not a girl at 20, but you're young.
Right.
At that young 20-something idealistic to now seasoned, children almost out of the house. How has your definition of marriage changed?
I think for me, it's, I think when you're first starting out and you're starting to have kids, it's about the kids. You focus on them, you try to think about their well-being. It's your every thought process is how to make them better and how to protect them, right? I think as you get older and the kids get older, you start being able to think about each other and spending time with each other and how that relationship will evolve over time. And then, honestly, do you still like each other, right? Because you start asking those questions, like, I'm going to be staying with this same woman for the rest of my life, you know? And I think that's a big part of it. So I think definitionally wise, I think for me anyway, I enjoy thinking about us having just time for each other and doing that.
You brought up something that I think is key, because I think a lot of people, when the kids leave home, it's like there's nothing left of the relationship.
Right.
What do you think it has gone wrong but what choices do you think were being made that opened the door for when then the kids left for there not to be anything there in the relationship?
They probably didn't make it a priority to still love on each other.
Right.
Because it was specifically
About the
focused
kids.
on the kids.
Right.
Where for us,
Yeah.
we have date day. That's
Every Friday,
that's,
like clockwork, you know?
That's a must. We have to.
Yeah.
And not because we feel that when you think of the word have to, right? It's not a chore. We want to. We look forward to it. And we know that because this has been our pattern and our behavior since the beginning, that we're even more excited once our children, we're empty nesters, that we continue to play harder together.
It's Cory Chapman talks about the 5 love languages, and I was remembering a part of his book. He talked about being in love and then having a mature love, and he talked about it's an obsession when you're in love, and that it may not even be healthy because eventually it runs out. And I remember listening to that part of that audio that I was listening to, and I was thinking to myself, that's interesting, because I thought being in love was the ultimate at the time, But I realized that when you love someone, the obsession part goes away, where you can, because, when you're first in love, it's all about that other person. Oh my God, I can't even work anymore because I'm just thinking about this person every day. And I think you get caught up in that moment, right? And then that's the only thing that matters. But that's not sustainable, And I think at the end of the day, when you start to become a mature love and you start thinking about each other as individuals and that we are truly individuals and respecting one another about what makes them great and what makes them who they are, then you start to build that mature love. And I think that's what happens after these 20 plus years of being together. You start thinking about other ways to make our relationship even stronger.
Well, anything else that you guys want to say just to help our listeners? I think this has been really powerful.
I appreciate it.
I really do. I'm glad that we had this conversation. And I'm glad that I got a chance to be the one to ask questions, because I feel like I have had a front row seat to you guys' relationship over many seasons in your life.
Yep.
And so I can speak to the authenticity and the truth of what people see externally, that it really is as good as it looks. And as someone being up close, and being able to connect with you guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Good stuff. Well, I guess that's a wrap of Wealth Habits today. Sherry, thanks so much for having us on here and talking and giving me the opportunity to talk and love on my beautiful wife, Delilah. That's always fun for me, with the big smile.
Yes. And I love you both.
Love you
Appreciate
too.
it.
Thank
love
you,
you
Sherry.
guys.
Thanks, Sherry.